It happens in a flash that feels like a lifetime. The red candle knifing through your stop. The sudden silence of a room that was humming 1 second ago and now rings like a struck bowl. Your jaw locks. Your breath forgets its rhythm. A heat rises through your arms that feels like urgency distilled. The cursor floats over the buy button, then the sell, then the double size, an orbit tracing panic around resolve. You tell yourself it's logic, a clean correction for a messy strike, but something else is driving, the same ancient engine that once made us lunge at what we lost as if the desert would give it back if we sprinted faster. On the screen, price flickers like a heartbeat. Inside you, another screen is lighting up, a theater of neurotransmitters and hormones, circuits that love predictions and punish mistakes. A voice from somewhere deep, the basal ganglia, the midbrain whispers, restore. Rectify. Make it even. And your finger trembles on the trigger, not from hope, but from chemistry. We call it revenge trading, as if it were a choice. What if it is a reflex? What if the market is a mirror and the face staring back is a graph of dopamine dips and cortisol waves, noradrenaline sparks igniting old wiring? What if the story is older than money? Tonight we go inside the skull at the moment the chase begins. We are going to map the invisible pharmacy that opens after a loss. The dopamine that falls and aches to be repaired. The cortisol that surges and narrows your tunnel. The noradrenaline that sharpens and blinds. The insula that labels the loss as pain. The prefrontal brake that loses friction at precisely the wrong time. We will follow prediction errors like breadcrumbs through the striatum. Visit the orbitofrontal desk where value gets recalculated, and listen to the anterior cingulate siren wail when conflict spikes. We will watch status hormones tint the chart, and we will see how a brain built for survival becomes a gambler in a blinking cave of pixels. And at the end, a golden insight. The way out is not to think harder, but to change the state before the thought arrives. Begin with the first fracture, the unexpected loss. In the smooth geometry of expectation, your brain forecasts reward with a quiet confidence. Dopamine hums in the midbrain, a subtle overture in the ventral tegmental area, signaling promise to the nucleus accumbens like a lantern passed down a line. When a win arrives where a win was predicted, dopamine has already spoken. But when a loss ambushes a predicted victory, dopamine doesn't just fall, it dips below baseline. A negative prediction error, an emptiness with an ache at its rim. This dip is not a metaphor. It is biology measuring disappointment in volts and vesicles. The ache demands an answer. The easiest repair is not an apology to yourself or a spreadsheet correction. It is an action that says the world can be set back to rights. Click again. Increase the size. One more roll to erase the error. Revenge trading is less a strategy than a chemical pursuit of equilibrium, a hunt for relief from the gnawing hollow of a dopamine deficit. You move not toward profit, but away from pain. The market becomes a pharmacy where the drug is momentary hope. Laced into this dip comes a second wave, bright and cold, noradrenaline. Your locus coeruleus, that tiny blue knot in the brainstem, floods your system with vigilance. Edges sharpen. Time accelerates. You are alive in a way that feels like clarity but is actually contraction. The Yerkes-Dodson curve, drawn a century ago, is not theoretical in this moment, it is palpable. A little arousal sharpens performance. Too much turns the prefrontal cortex, the careful planner, the librarian of rules, noisy and unreliable. Under stress, the brain shifts control from the model-building executive networks to the habit circuits in the dorsal striatum. You stop simulating scenarios and start repeating routines that worked once, long ago, under different skies. The urge for immediate correction is a habit in the garment of reason. Cortisol joins the storm, not as a villain, but as a herald of emergency. It mobilizes glucose, narrows peripheral concerns, and whispers to your immune system to stand down. It is clear, focused, unromantic. But it is also corrosive to nuance. In this chemistry, complexity collapses. The chart simplifies into a single command, fix it now. The loss has another face, status. We do not trade in a vacuum. We trade inside tribes, real or imagined, where rank shimmers in profit and loss columns. Testosterone hums in the background of this theater, attuned to rank dynamics. Wins nudge it upward, emboldening, sometimes intoxicating. Losses can tilt it or rattle its dance with cortisol into a volatile duet. High testosterone paired with high cortisol is combustible, the body insisting on action while the mindus lit with threat. The amygdala, sentinel of salience, reads the loss a social injury, and the insula, poet of the body, translates it into ache. The anterior cingulate, the conflict monitor, detects the mismatch between rule and impulse and flashes red. In this internal parliament, the most persuasive voice is often the loudest, and the loudest voice under threat is almost never the prefrontal cortex. Revenge trading, in this light, is a status repair ritual enacted by chemistry. It is not about the next dollar, it is about restoring a disrupted sense of rank, of competence, of face, an ancestral urgency disguised in modern numbers. Meanwhile, the desk of valuation, the orbitofrontal and ventromedial prefrontal cortices, tries to update the price of the next move. But losses distort the algorithm. Prospect theory, born from human behavior, predicted it. In the domain of loss, we lean toward risk. The brain weights the possibility of getting back to zero more heavily than the risk of sinking farther. The break-even effect, like a siren song, lures the OFC into granting extra credit to paths that promise restoration. Near misses, those cruelly almost right trades, can spur striatal activity that mimics wins, a reward signal without the reward. This is the gambler's mirage in a trader's suit, calling one more time, one more size, one more try to stop the bleeding. The OFC should integrate context, but stress weakens its grasp, and the value of not acting slips through the fingers. Illusion of control steps into the void, a cognitive sugar that tastes like reason and rots like candy left in the sun. Your thumb scrolls, your finger hovers, and inside, value is being recalculated by a committee half asleep and half afraid. Time in these moments is not a line, it's a loop. Habits coil. The basal ganglia, custodians of routine, stamp the sequence: cue, craving, action, fleeting relief. The cue is the loss, the craving is the dopamine deficit, the action is the chase, and the relief is the tiny upward flicker of possibility that briefly fills the deficit like water circling a drain. Whether the next trade wins or loses, the loop tightens. A win rewards the chase. A loss deepens the deficit and urges another attempt. Variable ratio reinforcement, the same schedule that trains slot machines to keep us seated, lays down tracks in the striatum. In the cockpit of your skull, a habit autopilot glides your hand forward even as another voice says, "Stop." Interoception, the sense of your internal weather, can be muffled by stress, and alexithymia, the difficulty of naming feelings, turns chemistry into static. Labeling helps, science tells us. To say anger, shame, fear out loud dials down amygdala activation and returns a sliver of control to the prefrontal helm. But few traders speak to themselves in the language of the limbic system when the screen is a storm. There is also an ancient algorithm running beneath the algorithms: make the world predictable again. After a loss, the nervous system leans toward actions that reclaim causality. Markets are stochastic, the brain is not fond of dice. Noradrenaline asks, what can we control? The hand finds the mouse. Cortisol asks, what can we do now? The click becomes a talisman against uncertainty. The vagus nerve, messenger between heart and brain, tightens its song. The breath lurches shallow, the heart drums in a tempo built for flight. In this sympathetic surge, long-term learning is a luxury. Short-term relief is king. We tell ourselves a story to match the state. The setup is still valid, the buyers will step in, the level will hold, because the brain prefers a bad reason to no reason when chemistry demands a motive. Later, when the surge fades and the prefrontal lights slowly come back on, the story unravels. But in the hour of heat, the myth feels true because the body needs it to be. Here is where the arc turns. The golden insight is stark and compassionate. Revenge trading is not a moral failure. It is a neurochemical sequence executing an ancient mandate to correct a prediction error, repair status, and restore control. The market did not make you do it. Your biology unmodulated did. And the way out is not to sharpen willpower until it sparks. It is to change the state that generates the urge. Traders who escape the spiral create a gap, tiny, ritualized physiological between loss and action. They cool the noradrenergic blaze with a longer exhale, a trick that bends the vagus toward calm and returns blood flow to the prefrontal lanes. They label the feeling quietly to drain the amygdala's color. They step away long enough for the catecholamine storm to pass, minutes, not hours, because neurochemistry obeys clocks more than arguments. Some sip water, steady glucose, feel the floor under their feet, small, unromantic acts that tell the limbic system the village is not on fire. Only then do they ask the chart a question. Only then does the chart answer like a map instead of a mirror. If this journey into the hidden engine of the chase made your own patterns shimmer into view, walk with us further. Like this film, if the science gave your discipline a gentler spine. Leave a comment with the moment you recognize, the cue, the craving, the action you'll replace. Subscribe for more slow, cinematic deep dives into the mind that trades, the chemistry that moves it, and the practices that make profit a byproduct of clarity. Remember, the market is not a foe to defeat, but a weather to navigate. When the blood is quiet, the screen becomes a horizon. When the breath is long, the next decision arrives like a shoreline you can finally see.